It feels good to be back.
So this past weekend, I went out of town. I went to Maddie's and we hung out for the week. And one of the things that we did was we went to Chicago. And the reason this is significant is because this is my first time I've ever been to Chicago. So we went to Chicago on Friday, July 1st. And that was the weekend, you know, I didn't put out any vlogs. So it was a nice big break. But the whole time, obviously, I wanted to get footage. So throughout this video, you're going to be seeing B-roll of stuff in Chicago because I thought it was really cool looking. And I figured it's a blown opportunity if I don't record it. But the drive there in the morning was relatively long. It was several hours. Well, it was several hours as a result of traffic. We had some traffic. Illinois traffic is terrible most of the time. There's either traffic or there's road work. And by the time we got to Chicago, it was kind of sort of an overcast, cloudy kind of day. And so driving into the city, it was really cool. It was one of those really interesting sights where, you know, you're kind of off in the outskirts and all of a sudden you see the big, you know, skyline of super tall skyscrapers and buildings and all that kind of stuff. Remember, this is the first time I've ever been here, so it's like, I was very awestruck. And I mean, from a distance, you know, it looked so small, and it looked, you know, like, boom, here's the city and that's it. But what you quickly come to realize is that it's not small at all. So we get into the city, we're driving in, and we're looking for our parking garage. It's funny, one of the things we ended up seeing, we were just driving through, we were in really slow traffic at the time, and we look out the window and we see 3 cops, and they are riding bicycles. And it's funny because, you know, you wouldn't think that they would be riding bicycles. It doesn't seem very, you know, cop-like or very intimidating. I think it was just kind of funny. So we finally get to the parking garage, and I've never seen anything like this before. The way it works is you have like an account with a certain, you know, company or certain thing. You're on this app, and you know, pay on the app, and you do this kind of stuff to pay for your parking. And so what happens is the parking garage is like, you know, it's like a gate. It recognizes your license plate. So you pull up to it, and if it works properly, you know, it'll see your license plate, it'll scan it, and it'll say, okay, this person is paid and this person's information's in the system. So you drive up and it automatically opens the door to let you in. And so you just pull up to it, don't even have to get out of the car, don't have to pay for it there, you don't have to roll your window down or anything. You simply just drive up to it and it says, boom, you're in, boom, lets you go, and you go up, and you go all the way up this big, I don't know how many floors there were, but we ended up going up to the 6th floor. And so you went up and it was extremely tight, like there was really no wiggle room. You made it through, and if there wasn't space to park, you just kept going up until you found a spot. And so we get down to the sidewalk, the ground level, we're outside now. And this is when it hits you, the sheer magnitude of everything. I'm a 6'1" human, and these buildings are hundreds of feet tall. So I look up and I keep going, and I keep going, and then I fall over. I didn't actually fall over. I felt like I could have sometimes. The first place we ended up going to was the Water Tower Mall. This mall's got tons of different floors. I think it's like 7 stories or something. One of the fun things that we did, this whole trip was about exploring and shopping and just running around looking at stuff. It was really fun. We went to the Water Tower Mall, and this is something that I had never seen before. I'd never heard of it before, but we ran across, there was a couple of different ones of these throughout the city, and you know, they were a little bit dotted everywhere. I think it might be a local thing. I'm pretty sure it's like a Chicago-based company, but there was this place we found called Garrett Popcorn. And it was so cool. It was awesome. I was like, wait a minute, that's my name. But it's somebody's actual company. And it was really cool because I've never seen anything that big with my name on it. Obviously, it's somebody else's name, but it's still really cool to see that. So obviously, you know, I took a picture next to it, and I was like really happy. I was like, that's my name. So we spent a couple hours in the mall. We started up at the top floor, then we went down. We did a lot of walking through downtown and seeing all the different buildings and people. And one of the big things that I thought was really cool, I'll talk about it a bit more, is the people. How many people there were, and just that was just really a really cool thing to me because everybody was walking around. There was always, you know, there were so many people doing so many different things, and everybody had something going on. It was just like, dude, this is cool. One of the next things we did, we went to a Ghirardelli store, and oh my goodness, we got some of the little chocolate squares, and we all got coffee and stuff. It was really good. What we did was we got our chocolate, we got our coffee, and then we sat down at this big long table. It was against a window, and this window overlooked, you know, a big sort of walk area out front, and then there was a bridge, and there was the river. But down the river, you know, they were doing all kinds of different boat tours and things like that. So it was really cool because there was people floating along the river, or they were like paddling, or they were doing whatever. And our view was nothing short of spectacular because not only did you see all the buildings, but like I mentioned earlier, there was all the people. And you just see there's hundreds of people cycling through that little area, and they were walking around and they were doing things. Specifically, there was one person there was this guy, he was set up, he was playing a saxophone. So he was jamming, playing, you know, relatively popular music on a saxophone, and everybody was, you know, he had his little bucket to drop money in, or there was Cash App, Venmo. It was really cool because there was this guy and he was drawing so much attention. So there was him, and there was a big old circle, nobody there, and everybody was spread out around him. There was people walking by, listening and just jamming and having a good time, and then people were completely ignoring it and walking through. So there was this big thing going on. All the while there was a bunch of people around it just not even worried about it. They were doing their own thing, taking pictures by the bridge and walking across the bridge and just all these different things. And in one of the clips here, I had it zoomed in, like looking down a straight of road. So there was looking down, and there was road, there was the building here, there's a building here, and there was traffic. But on the sidewalk, it was, again, I'm going back to the people. There were so many people there on the sidewalk. If you sit and think, it's really big because each individual person is thinking about, you know, something different. They're all doing their own thing. They're going somewhere, they're doing something, they're there for the first time, or they live there, or they're visiting from another country. Like, there's so many different perspectives, and there's like, each of those people has their own life. And so that was one of those things that not only was the view good, but there was so much depth into what you were looking at, because not only the buildings and the architecture, but the people. And on a more humorous note, one of the first things I noticed when I got there was the pigeons. I don't know how actually relevant it is. I saw a pigeon, I was like, hey, a pigeon. And the whole trip there was kind of a meme. It was like, oh, pigeons, 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 pigeons. And then there ended up being a time where I saw like 7 in just one little spot. And it was just kind of a cool, funny little thing that I noticed. It was just, every time I saw a pigeon, I was like, hey, a pigeon.
Yo, it's a heckin' pigeon.
I don't think I've ever seen that many pigeons in one place. So amidst our exploration of Chicago, we ended up at Millennium Park. It was kind of cool because, you know, they checked your bag and everything, so made sure your park experience was safe and good to go. So we all got in, and the first thing we saw was there was this like open grass field thing. It wasn't huge, but it was like a picnic area, I would say. And then there was this fountain there on the end, and it had like these really cool columns. It was like almost a half circle worth of columns. I don't know. And there was all kinds of plants and trees, different waterfall fountain thingies, and of course Millennium Park. If anyone's been to Chicago, you know that that's where the Bean lives.
The Bean, Mrs.TheBear at the Bean.
And all I've ever seen of the Bean was people posting pictures about it and that kind of stuff. But I never really realized how big it actually was. So we ended up getting closer to it, and it was really cool because you could see the way, you know, it's round, obviously. So the way you can see it, you can see the reflection of like everybody in that immediate space. And it was a fun little game. You know, you stand farther back and you try and find like where you are on the Bean. And I found this. I waved until I could see me, and it was kind of hard to tell though. Overall, the Bean didn't really take us a whole lot of time because you go, you look at it, you take pictures, and in this case video, and then you're pretty much done. Obviously, we hung around a little bit, talked, stood by it, looked at it. It was cool. Shortly after we left, we were on to our next destination. So the next spot we were headed to was Navy Pier. And if I'm not mistaken, this overlooks Lake Michigan. On our way there, we walked up this, you know, it was uphill, and there was, you know, at Chicago, there were a ton of tall buildings off to our left. Navy Pier had some of the best views because it was Navy Pier and then Lake Michigan. It was just right on the coastline of Lake Michigan, so it was really just a lot of water. But on our way there, it was really awesome because we walked through this park kind of leading up to it, and there was a specific designated road for bicycles, and they had these little bike taxi things where people would ride a bicycle that was pulling some kind of carriage or whatever. So there was people that would pay to ride on these things to get rides from place to place. So the whole entire way from wherever we started to the pier, it was just views, and it was really, really beautiful. And so when we were at the pier, we walked through, looked at all the shops, and there was a ton of different food options. And so we ate, and it was really good. I had a piece of pizza that was like this freaking, it was probably about that tall, like laid out on the plate, probably about that big. It was a big piece of pizza. It was a huge piece of pizza. It was mostly crust though, but it was still really, really good. I talked about, throughout this whole video, I've talked about a lot of the views. And you know, we got done, it's July, so the sun's gonna be up to about 8:45. The views when the sun is setting, behind the buildings with the clouds, and it's just, and because we had to walk back, it was such a clear, beautiful view of everything. You saw everything, and the sun sort of backlit these buildings where there was the buildings were a little bit darker, but the glow around them was just amazing. The sky was that really nice, you know, there was that really nice gradient from like orange to pink to blue, you know, how it is in the late evening whenever the sun's going down. There was that, but it was all over. So we got out, we ended up leaving and going home. The whole experience, it was so much fun. It was the best possible first time in Chicago I could have ever asked for. The crazy thing is that there's so many people. And each individual person, there's hundreds and thousands of people walking around on these streets, like just on a daily basis. Each individual person has their own life. They lead their own life. They have their own worries, their own dreams, their own everything. Everybody has their own perspective. I think one of the biggest things that I took home was that all of the people, that every single one of the people that I saw that day walking around on the street or riding a bike or whatever they were doing, everyone has their own story. Everyone leads their own life. It's wild because just from one person's perspective, you can't possibly imagine how many different things are happening to that many people. So it was a really, really awesome experience overall, but the one thing that really hit home for me was that there were so many people and they were all doing their own thing, leading their own everyday life, all simultaneously in this one place. So earlier I had mentioned that there was a popcorn store called Garrett Popcorn. Maddie had gotten me a little commemorative Chicago tin of popcorn, and it was what they called the Garrett's Mix. So it had cheddar popcorn and caramel corn. And by the time that we got home, I had eaten all of Garrett's popcorn.